Good evening, everyone. I've again had the pleasure of reviewing the images from one of your contests. This group always turns out extraordinary images, and it's just great fun to look them through. Thanks for the opportunity. Now, I was also asked to say a word about judging, so I want to make a couple of comments in that regard. Judging is always a bit of a scary proposition because aside from the technical aspects, there's that component of subjectivity which always shows up when you're trying to judge art. For that reason, I try and make things as objective as possible, pretty tough in art, by using a bit of a jury system when I look at these images. So I invite over one or two of likewise experienced folks at judging in the Metroplex to review these images with me. They're evaluated by the usual criteria of composition, lighting, technical execution, processing, and also originality and impact. Can't emphasize impact enough. Winning images often just jump right out of the pile to begin with. All right, folks, let's get going and take a look at these images. Entry level. The first image is Papa. The title certainly fits this photograph. I love the lichen, adding to the feeling of age and interest to the word Papa. The point of interest is nice and sharp. The thing that is unfortunate here is the actual subject only occupies about 40% or less of the picture. The bottom half is out of focus, which was probably deliberately done to emphasize the subject. A great idea, but it is such a big area compared to the actual subject, and the bright spot of color draws the eye away. So what we need to do is to have the subject occupy more of the position of interest in the photograph and get rid of everything else. Next image, An Angel's Lament. This is a really interesting subject. Nice setting, and right away you want to know who this person was. It suggests an interesting story. There are several correctable issues that would improve this photograph and its presentation here. Consider moving the camera position more to the left if that was possible, which would bring the inscription more into view. It would separate the bust and the upper angel and hopefully keep those trees from looking like they were growing out of the heads. Also consider using some mild HDR techniques to improve the lighting, or else photograph at a different time of the day, as the current lighting fades out the upper right portion of the picture. The splash of color in the lower right-hand part of the picture is pretty, but slightly out of focus and distracts from the main point of interest. The next image, Soldiers at Rest. Bright, sharply focused image with a lot of attractive color. It could be improved by more clearly identifying a subject of interest. The articles in the foreground with the flag might be the subject of interest, but the stone on the left has then been cropped off, and everything is in sharp focus, so depth of field has not been used to emphasize the subject. A helpful thing to remember is emphasize the subject and get rid of or de-emphasize everything else. The next image, The Angel. This is a centrally positioned image of an angel. It's nicely highlighted, offsetting it from the background. I appreciate, too, that the depth of field focus as well is sharp on the subject and has been adjusted to make the background pleasingly diffuse, to again highlight the center of interest. That's a great job. I would tone down the hottest part of the highlights on the angel itself, as they were a little distracting, and I might consider using a healing brush or other available tools to spot and correct the damaged places on the angel. It is, after all, an angel, so no problem with perfection, right? Nice image. Shadestone. 12 points. Katrina Christopher, honorable mention. The image maker here picked a very interesting monument to photograph. Reading it, it looked like survival was tough in the 19th century. The image is clear and sharp. The right side of the image is a little vacant compared to the left side. I would consider trying to move the camera a little more to the left and not crop off part of the tombstone on the left side. This has the potential also of yielding a more balanced composition. It might also keep the tree from looking like it is growing out of the tombstone. Also consider darkening the white, tall tomb monument in the background so that it doesn't draw attention away from the main subject. Next image, We Will Remember. 12 points. Third place, John Eden. This is a nice image with a fitting title. The flag adds to the image from a compositional standpoint and offers an additional point of interest in this setting with this title. The selective focus is also very nice. A little more pop would be of benefit to the impact of this image. Next image, A Lovely Lonely Walk. 12 points. Second place, Catherine Moulton. I love the composition of this image. It's very nicely balanced, nicely framed with the overhanging tree. It invites you to follow the model right down the same walk. Consider reducing the contrast, however, a bit and trying to bring up some more detail in the highlights as well as some of the writing on the crypts that is slightly visible but not really readable in this image. I would also want to bring up some detail in the shadows and leave only a very few areas completely black. I realize that the model was probably an incidental walk-on that was captured in the shot, but if I were to do the image again, I would put a model costumed appropriately for the setting in that place and you'd have a top-notch image. Next image, Rest in Peace, Mary Love. 13 points. First place, Nok Wong. This is a nice photograph of an attractive monument with a good message, love. I might consider cropping out the two grave markers in the foreground and perhaps a subtle pop of fill flash to pop up the main point of interest and add an additional emphasis to the angel and the phrase loved. In that regard, you might also consider a more restricted depth of field to emphasize the subject, but it's a very nice image. First image, Modern Monument. Nice sharp photograph of an interesting concept of a monument that someone has constructed. I wonder what this monument might look like in color. The background horizon is curved in this image, and I don't believe it is from a hilltop, as the building in the background appears to have the same curvature. I would consider straightening the view by pulling up the corners to straighten out the image, and it would also have the advantage of eliminating the white roof line on the upper left of the background that pulls the eye to the left and out of the picture. Such an unusual monument makes me want to move in on the plaques at the back to see what this is all about. Next image, Arlington National Cemetery. A nice panoramic with a classic look when you think of a cemetery. The image is well focused front to back with nice lighting and nice color. It needs something happening, though, to give it that little extra punch to put it over the top. Next image, Calhoun. I sat and looked at this picture and then argued it with other folks on the jury as we looked at it. At first I loved the backlight, but thought that the subject was a bit shadowed, and since it was a subject, it should be more brightly lit. But somehow it has a very artistic look with what amounts to a heaven's glow around the monument, even if it is a little darker. It is well focused with nice balanced composition and looks arty. I still would consider maybe putting a little more contrast into the monument itself. Next image, Eternal Arms Apartment. This image has a very clever title. It's nice and sharp with great color, nicely composed. Again, it would be a nice addition if we had a little something happening here to add a little something extra to the image. Next image, San Geronimo Cemetery. This was another image that evoked a lot of discussion. A very interesting historical cemetery. Love the colored cross nicely placed in the composition and the remnants of maybe a church in the background that add interest. This looks like it was shot at highlight and might be just a bit hot. I would consider a black and white version since it appears to have been shot at that highlight of the day with a lot of contrast. The blue of the hills and the sky seem to be a little oversaturated. It's a wonderful sight, great framing. Can't help but wonder what this composition would look like at twilight or at sunrise and sunset. Very picturesque location. Next image, Santa Fe National Cemetery. This is a nicely photographed National Cemetery shot. The leading stone is nearly centered. It works here. The interspersed trees in the background add interest to the image. I would consider reducing the vignetting a little and increasing the contrast for a little more pop. Next image, Remembering Our Veterans. This is a fairly common subject, as we have seen when we think of cemeteries. But it's nicely done here with the added storytelling feature of the figures pausing at the grave. Nicely composed. Heaven's Gate, 14 points, honorable mention, Richard Otto. This is another very nice photograph. Good subject, well placed with wonderful clouds for the background and a good exposure. Might consider slightly lightening the subject's face, that is, that angel's face, to further draw the eye to the central figure. Very nice image. Next image, Laborer at Rest. 14 points, third place, Joyce Mangum. Here again, a very, very nicely photographed image. Great title, great composition, great lighting, good differential focus. Wouldn't change anything here. Just a very nice image. Next image, A Family in Stone, 14 points, second place, Michael Luzardo Jr. Wow. The fog and somber colors really set the mood of the cemetery theme. Great photograph taken at a perfect time. Hard to know what else to say about this photograph. It's just very nice. Might have added a touch more light to the front stone for emphasis, but again, maybe not. Nice job. Next image, Fall Colors Embrace Time-Weathered Headstones. 15 points, first place. This is another really fantastic photograph. This is an art piece as far as I'm concerned. Great composition, great pastel colors, great lighting. If I were to consider anything with this picture, I might try toning down the leaves and highlights on the right a little bit. But it's a great picture and an art piece. Fantastic. And now the advanced group. First image, Celtic Cemetery. Looks like a very interesting location, one that invites further investigation. The yellow-orange flowers contrast nicely with the green. While it takes some time to begin, one does begin to appreciate the tombstones in the foreground. Of course, I'm not at the location, but it looks like you could improve the composition by shifting the camera angle to the right, both providing a better viewing angle of the tombstones while still retaining the interesting background elements. The current viewing angle has a tendency to have the viewer look through the tombstones and a tendency to look just a little bit cluttered. Also, I feel like I would like to have had a less cropped view of the stones and the patch of color in the foreground to give it more standing in the photograph since it is so colorful. Next image, Cemetery. This photograph features nice warm light and beautiful color. On a full screen look at the image, the large monument in the front of the image appears a little bit soft. As it stands, the eye is instantly drawn to the large bright space of the front monument, but there's nothing in it but the word Scott at the base, which is disappointing, as it occupies such a prominent position in the picture. If there was some text in this space, it would be nice to be able to visualize it for interest. There are 3 additional areas of light monuments that attract the eye. I would consider increasing the depth of field to include all the featured monuments, and if possible, move the camera to the left to create space between the central monument and the white one on the left, giving the 3 objects of interest a better position in relationship to one another. It might also better obscure the object that is in deep shadow, as well as possibly hide the small bright objects that draw the eye away from the central point of interest. Those are those small bright objects in the back between the central and the right-hand bright images. Next image, Loved and Blessed Forever. Wow, these mausoleum cemeteries are really kind of neat to look at. Another nice shot down a row of these fascinating tombs. The view down the walkway takes the eye right down the line. It's well focused. I wish there were some clouds in the sky, but we can't control the weather, and I would have preferred light that was less contrasting. Also consider cropping off from the left to reduce the size of the left side of the picture, as it is very bright and it has that shadow in it that competes for the viewer's attention.
So the next photo is the Recoleta Cemetery, Buenos Aires. A very interesting view of a compacted appearing cemetery. Looks like a really interesting place to visit. Nice exposure, nice focus front to back. Perhaps could benefit from a little more contrast, but overall looks nice. The monument in the front is massive and tends to overweight the picture on the left. I would consider cropping in from the left to the edge of the column portion of the monument to give a more balanced approach. I like the addition of the young ladies entering the picture, but would like to have the one costumed a little differently. I know these were probably just walk-ins. The next photo is Hidden Marker. Fantastic find. Very interesting location for a headstone. It makes one wonder about the story behind this marker. Very nice composition. My thoughts center around the techniques used for this shot. The total tone range is rather similar throughout the photo. I wonder if it would be better to format this image in color. Did the lichen have a color? I also would have liked some differential lighting on the headstone as opposed to the trees. The current lighting, for me, overemphasized the texture of the tree bark, distracting from the central point of interest. The next photo, one foggy morning. Nice picture, sharply focused, with great depth of field, and the fog adds a somber feeling to the theme. As it is presented, the wall becomes almost a main subject, and you tend to follow the bright, sharp wall as a leading line to the left and out of the picture. I would consider cropping in from the left so the eye doesn't lead out of the picture, and down from the top to eliminate part of the fog, since there is nothing of interest there. This makes the cemetery more of the theme, and yet retains the well-lit, most attractive wall. The next photo is Tombstone. This simple title fits the photograph perfectly. The low light of this photograph is perfect for the theme of a cemetery. The somber tones and the shadow of the cross on the stone is a masterful touch. Wow, a gorgeous photograph. The only change I would nitpick over is not cropping off the lettering at the bottom of the monument. The next photo is The Light Beyond. Great title for this beautiful photograph. Looks like an infrared photo, beautifully composed, sharp throughout, and lots of points of interest. What more can you say? This is just a great photograph. If I were to personally nitpick, I might try just a touch more detail in the right-hand side of the highlight in the trees and lighten the vignette slightly. But in the end, doing that might not be as good as the way it is now.
The Masters Group. First image is secure and at rest. This image made us look at it several times and evoked a lot of conversation, because we didn't know exactly what to make out of it. I seem to have missed the intent here, for which I apologize. There's indeed what appears to be a scene in the background from a cemetery, and it has been purposefully and nicely blurred, suggesting that the main emphasis is elsewhere, and that elsewhere, because of the focus, seems to be the rocks, which are nicely lit and very sharply focused. I can't help but feel that there must be some psychological meaning here, which I and the group have just missed. Sorry. Next image, sheltering tree. When we first saw this image, we were absolutely struck by the beautiful tree and the fascinating stones in front of it. Everyone took a second look at it. The composition to my eye is just great. The focus is perfect. I really like this photograph. I would only consider reworking just a few things to make it absolutely perfect. Consider picking up the lighting of the foreground gravestones to make them stand out more and give more punch to the image. Also, I would clone out the white geometric shapes to the left, as it draws the eye away from the central points of the photograph. The principal thing I would change is the grainy appearance of the sky. I don't know if this was caused by sharpening or at what part of the processing this occurred, but fixing it would make all the difference. The last thing is just nitpicking, but I would consider cloning out the wires on the right-hand part of the sky. They appear to have been partially already removed in the left part of the sky, and I would complete that. The next image, country chapel and cemetery. Very colorful image. The yellow of the trees contrasts nicely with the bright blue sky. The appearance of lights in the chapel are very nice, and they may instead be reflections of the trees, but it still makes the windows look nice. Sharp focus front to back. I would consider cropping off quite a bit of the foreground, as there is no attractive information there. Vernazza Cemetery, Cinque Terre, National Park, Italy. Straight-on photograph of graves old and new, in a beautiful location with nice colors and enhancing sky. The photographs on the stones make it even more interesting. I would consider removing, though, the tombstone in the bottom center of the picture, as the light-colored stone with the colored picture is distracting from the image. It makes one want to pull down the bottom of the picture to see who this person was. Nice colors and a pretty scene. Pink Tulips. Very fitting title for this well-lit, well-composed, and sharply focused image. I would consider removing the more orange and thoroughly dead-looking blooms, as well as the brown dead grasses to give a tidier appearance to the composition. I might also consider making the vignette a little more subtle and substitute some of the still pink fallen flowers and a bit of semicircle on the gravestone in the lower right corner to complete a fallen petal vignette. Next image, Great-Great-Grandfather. I like the title, and that coupled with the stone itself tell the story of this nicely lit, straightforward image. Very nice. Next image, Pauper's Rest. Wonderfully well done image throughout with its somber colors that says it all. The purposefully placed shadow of the cross is a masterful touch to this image. The next image, R.I.P. Dowie. This is a very thoughtful photograph and certainly brings us to the reality of the sacrifice that so many have made for our freedom. Despite the backlighting, which is dramatic, the headstone is attractively lit and the entire photograph is sharply focused. A very evocative photograph, and I am certainly impressed by the art that went into creating the image that is not just a snapshot. I do wish that the image hadn't been so tightly cropped. It makes me feel like we are almost about to lose the good part. Also, I would consider toning down the highlight on the top of the ammo can as it draws the eye from the central image. Next image, Justa Marufo, 14 years. Great composition with a lot of interesting parts. I love the way the foliage surrounds the grave marker with an interesting wall behind and triangles of stone above. My only thought is the black and white rendering leaves the photo with a feeling of a jumble of textures. I would be inclined to try a color version of this neat photograph to render separation to the various parts. The next image, well, this is probably not going to be said correctly, but it looks like Clomacnoise Cemetery, 13 points, honorable mention, Linda Grigsby. Certainly a rich and attractive photograph with the clouds adding to the somber feeling of the scene. It is a beautiful scene with a balanced composition, and it looks like it might need an umbrella if you were standing out there very long. Very nice image, very pretty. Next image, Fort Stanton Merchant Marine Cemetery, 1899. 13 points, honorable mention, Charlotte Hasty. Beautiful scene, great clouds, and the golden brown of the grasses contrasting nicely with the patches of blue in the sky. The rows of white crosses complete the scene while providing a moment of contemplation to the viewer. The low hanging clouds veiling the mountains provides a nice touch to the photograph. Next image, Night Watch. 14 points, third place, James Stover. Great title for this arty night cemetery shot with an urban background. The trees form a nice frame, and the lead-in monument has nice, appropriate lighting. If I were going to consider anything here, I would clone out the longer streak of light on the lower light in the cemetery and remove what it looks like a wooden electrical pole with this associated curved light and bright bulb in the background. Next image, Remembering. 14 points, second place, John Lehman. This is another image that has had a lot of forethought and a lot of preparation. The stones and figure form a nice triangle in the central part of the picture, keeping the eye contained. Everything appears to have been carefully thought out. The uniform figure, the guns, the lantern, the tint of the print, and the edging. It all fits together very well with the title. It is a well-done historical recall piece. If I were to suggest anything, I would clone out the two figures in the upper right background of the picture, as they do not fit the rest of the scene. Next image, St. Paul's Chapel Cemetery, NYC Plano. 15 points, first place, Jose Artiles. This is a fascinating image of an old cemetery in the midst of ultra-modern, ultra-urban New York City. A lot to look at here. All is in sharp focus with great lighting and an almost graphic appearance. Neat photograph. Fall colors embrace time-weathered headstones. Best of show, Daniel Daly. This is an art piece as far as I'm concerned. Great composition, great pastel colors, great lighting. And one last word about judging. I've seen images in one contest get a score of 10 and the same image in another contest take first place. So if you think the judge is nuts, he might be. put that image back in another contest.